Hi everyone, and welcome to the continuing Introduction to Policy Analysis presentation that is based on the book Dimensions of Social Welfare Policy by Gilbert and Terrell. This is now week 8 of the class, and this is part 1 of a 3-video series on the design of the delivery system. Before we get to that, just a brief review of where we are in the Gilbert and Terrell framework that is analyzing product when it comes to policy analysis. So there was a video on the first question, which is what are the bases of social allocations? And that really is about who is benefiting from the policy, who is the client. The second question is about the types of social provisions to be given. So in other words, what benefits do the clients receive? And then now we're going to focus on the strategies for the delivery of those provisions, or how the benefits are going to be given. There will also be a video on the ways to finance these provisions, which focuses on the source of financing as well as how it will get from the source to the deliverer of the benefits or the service providers. So in terms of the delivery system, Gilbert and Terrell note that this refers to the organizational arrangements that exist among service providers and between service providers and consumers in the context of the local community. The local community is chosen because that is where we have the intersection of the community and the client that is receiving services. So in other words, services are usually provided in some sort of community context. Now, in terms of the service providers and who they are, by way of definition or example, if you will, according to Gilbert and Terrell, service providers can be individual professionals, self-help associations, professional groups, public or private agencies. The key here is that they are acting separately or together to provide services, and these can be in private homes, offices, community centers, welfare or mental health departments, etc. And just like with the other dimensions, there are many choices when it comes to the delivery of services and benefits. So for example, the organization can be administratively centralized or administratively decentralized. And I'll go over each one of these as well as the benefits and drawbacks individually, but just so, for now, just to have an overview of what these are. So another choice is whether to combine services or to only have a single service at the organization. Should services be located under one roof, or should there be separate facilities? Should service providers coordinate their efforts, or should they be independent? Will professionals be providing services or paraprofessionals and other clients? In terms of authority and power, should that be in the hands of clients or in experts? And in terms of costs, controlling costs, should that be via inhibiting supply or inhibiting demand? And then finally, although this is not a wholly exhaustive list, but for our purposes, finally, should there be public administrators who provide services or private contractors? When it comes to these choices, it can actually be classified under 3 main questions. The first is, where will authority and control for decision-making be located? The question of centralization falls under this, as well as whether power or authority is to clients or experts, and how is cost going to be controlled. When it comes to the second question, which is what will be the composition of the delivery system, this involves whether to combine services, the location of those services, and whether or not there's going to be coordination of efforts. In terms of the third question, which is who will carry out the different service tasks to be performed, this is where we're talking about professionals or paraprofessionals and public versus private. So now let's go through each one of these, and I will discuss the drawbacks as well as the benefits. benefits, or rather the benefits first and then the drawbacks. Okay, so that first question was about where the authority and control for decision making is located. So under this question, we have a choice regarding centralization. In a centralized organization, all the power in terms of decision making is at the top of the organizational chart. There is little to no input from below, whether that be from clients, from frontline workers, or mid-level managers. In a decentralized organization, however, there is opportunity for decision making across the organization. So that means mid-level managers and employees have a say in the decisions that are made. In terms of benefits of an centralized organization, it could be the case that sometimes there's a director or a group of people in upper management who have a particular vision for the agency. And so having a centralized decision-making authority that's vested in just them or one person helps to control as much of the decisions as possible to ensure that that vision is met. It also ensures a certain level of stability when there is one source of decision making or one leader. Benefits of a decentralized organization are that it's very empowering to employees and mid-level managers, so they may have more buy-in into the activities of the organization. Also, they may have a better understanding in what is needed at the front line because they are working there, and so they can better help inform decision making. In terms of drawbacks, well, related to that one leader, one vision idea, what happens if that leader or the top becomes incapable of making decisions or leading? For example, what if they leave? Or there's an illness or a death or restructuring, what happens then? Also, employees and other mid-level managers may feel less motivated to perform for the agency if they feel that they have no power. In terms of a decentralized organization, employees may not see the bigger picture because they are on the front line. So being on the front line is a benefit, but it can also be a drawback. And then the whole idea of too many cooks in the kitchen with too many ideas, which could mean that decisions may not be made in a timely manner. The next choice involves authority or powers. So one choice is to allow clients to have power, to have authority. And in this case, we're valuing the clients as experts in their own lives. So it's taking self-determination to a whole other level because now clients have the authority in what services are provided. There are three types of sort of power or authority that can be given. That's non-distributive, normal, or redistributive. And non-distributive participation, or what they call pseudo-participation, it's kind of like lip service, where they don't actually have any authority. They may attend some trainings or what have you, but there's nothing stated, and really there's no perceptible effect on any of the pattern of authority that's already, or the structure of authority that's already present. In normal participation, which is also referred to as token participation, there may be a more formal, if not written down, sort of delineation of what kind of power that the clients have, but it's still really kind of modest, as the book calls it, versus redistributive, where the citizens, where the clients and the participants have substantive influence on the decisions when it comes to service delivery. The other option is to have authority be vested in experts. So the idea is that the providers spend years learning about problems, needs, best practices, evidence-based practices, strengths, etc. So that expertise can better determine what services are provided and how. The benefits in terms of having clients have authority is it's very empowering. And then, therefore, there's more buy-in in terms of services being provided, and it may lead to more compliance with services. On the other hand, experts may know more about what services work best for whom based on research and their individual practices. In terms of drawbacks for clients having power, clients may be too close to the situation to make objective decisions. Also, they may be providing lower quality or what some refer to as amateurish services. And there's no real research that says that they're really better at engaging other clients than professionals or experts, I should say. The drawbacks for experts having authority is that it may be difficult to get buy-in from clients if they believe that providers are exerting power without any input from them. And then that may lead to non-compliance. And the last part of or choice in this under this question involves controlling costs. The information here is from this source. When it comes to controlling costs, really this is about how to ration or limit services when budgets become tight. So there's an effort that needs to be made to control costs, and there are two main ways of doing this. The first choice is inhibiting supply, and this involves two main types, the first of which is restrictive rationing. And there are two main restrictive types. The first is denial, where there are eligibility criteria to specify who gets treatment or gets the treatment at certain points of entry into the system. So if there's eligibility criteria, that means some may be denied access or denied services, excuse me. And then there's filtering where there might be authorization of services only to those who absolutely require it. And so people who have a need but who don't absolutely require it are separated from those who do absolutely require it by either providing referrals to other organizations or using others as similar deflection type of mechanisms. And then the second type of inhibiting supply involves diluent rationing, and this is where there's a reduction in service and which involves either the quality of the service, how long it's provided, or the amount of services offered. The second choice when it comes to controlling costs involves inhibiting demand, and there are three common methods of doing this. The first is deterrence, which has two sort of subparts, if you will. One involves user payments, which basically means charging for services or raising the price for services. And when we do that, then demand is reduced because people are unwilling or unable to pay for a service. The second way in terms of deterrence is shame. So making receiving a service shameful, adding a stigma to it, etc. The other method of inhibiting demand involves delays. So, wait lists are one way of delaying service. Dilution is the third method, and this is similar to the diluent rationing under inhibiting supply because there's a lot of overlap between supply and demand, especially when it comes to service quality and duration. So, so you can see, if it's a limited quality service or it's very short and the client knows they need longer term services, they might choose a different organization. Okay, so in terms of the benefits of inhibiting supply, it's cost saving. There's no shame involved. It's affordable and it's accessible. So it's kind of the things that the three common methods of inhibiting demand are the opposite of. Similarly, the benefits for inhibiting demand, one, it's cost saving as well. There's no denial of services, and it's accessible eventually. In terms of drawbacks, all of it, just doing any of these is not good for the client. And similarly with the second one, I mean, there is just all not good. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, So the second question was, what will be the composition of the delivery system? So the first choice is actually two choices combined. So whether to combine services or to specialize, and then whether to have those combined services under one roof or to have them separately. So these two are very closely tied together, so that's why I'm talking about them here in the same slide. So when it comes to combining services as a choice, this involves, kind of as it suggests, providing different services. And this can be in one-stop shops or under the same roof or in a network of services. Alternatively, you can have a single service, which is where they provide only one service, which is also referred to as specializing or specialization. Okay, so that's pretty much it. It's kind of as the wording suggests, but let's talk about benefits. So combining services reduces travel for clients, so it makes things a little bit more accessible. There's non-duplication of services if, let's say, it's all under one roof or there's a network. And then there's communication across the service providers. Sorry, I should say service providers, not services. So clients don't fall through the cracks because these are all essentially the same service organization. When it comes to specialization, a benefit is that the providers really know that one service, one service really, really well. They're, experts. And some problems require those types of specialized interventions that a service provider who is providing many different services may not have. In terms of drawbacks, mainly it's not being specialized when it comes to having those combined services. In terms of a single service, it's going to require communication and coordination, which may not always happen. Okay, who will carry out the different service tasks to be performed? And one question, or one choice I should say, under this question is whether professionals or paraprofessionals will be providing the services. So in terms of professionals, it really has to do with what we were talking about before, or what I was presenting before on experts versus paraprofessionals who are the clients. And so all of the same sort of issues in terms of benefits and drawbacks apply here as well. It's just that this is referring specifically to providing services, whereas the power question was really about the authority to decide on what services and also how. Okay, so another choice involves this issue of privatization, which is the choice between having a public entity administer the services. In that case, we're talking about government agencies, or private, which are nonprofits, and these can be community-based or not, and then also for-profits. As the name suggests, nonprofits do not make a profit off of the service delivery, whereas the for-profits actually do, but they're both considered private entities. In terms of benefits, when it comes to government agencies, there's more access, it's generally lower cost, and there's accountability. Okay, the whole low cost thing is a sticking point, but I'll talk about that in the next video. Okay, benefits for private administration is that they're usually in the community. Some argue that they're more efficient and that competition leads to innovation. When it comes to the drawbacks, well, there's a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to public administration and all of the issues that come from that. In terms of private administration, there are issues of access, especially if the nonprofit or for-profit is religious in nature. Oftentimes there's lack of accountability as well. And the profit-making motive in the case of for-profits can actually harm clients. Okay, so that is the end of part 1. Make sure you go over to part 2 of this video series, or you will be sorry. Not a threat. It's just that we will be, or I keep saying we, I will be going over privatization in a little bit more detail than what's presented here because it is a hot topic issue for social services and service delivery, and it's important to devote some time to it. Here are the sources of the images that I used, and that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.